What's up, y'all? This is Sunny, back with another video. I hope y'all are having a great night. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that I feel very strongly about and have for a very long time. This clip is going to be about the contrast between setting and achieving personal financial goals and achieving financial success outside the Jehovah's Witnesses organization compared to setting and achieving these so-called spiritual goals inside the Jehovah's Witnesses organization, which can very easily lead to poverty or, at the very least, financial instability. Now, as I said, this is something that I feel very strongly about, so strongly, in fact, that it was hard for me to put together this material to present because I just get so angry thinking about how the Jehovah's Witnesses operate. Now, today I'm going to describe for you guys a couple of experiences that I saw at the last assembly, the last circuit assembly that I attended as an actual still baptized and active Jehovah's Witnesses. And it was just so shocking to me, these experiences that I saw, because it illustrated for me just with perfect clarity how the Jehovah's Witnesses organization wants its members to be destitute. It wants its members to be poor. And it's just incredible to me how this organization has such a long history of discouraging their young people and just their members in general from pursuing higher education. You've heard these talks that they have and these experiences. They give these experiences almost at every single convention, at every single circuit assembly, and even in the congregations. Now, these two experiences that I heard, they just blew me away. I was just speechless after while I was listening to them. And if you've been following my channel, you know that the main thing that caused me to wake up to the truth about the Jehovah's Witnesses organization was how the Jehovah's Witnesses handled my case as someone who's a survivor of sexual abuse, right? So that's the thing that actually caused me to wake up to the truth about the organization. But while I was still in, the thing that caused me to first really start to have doubts about the Jehovah's Witnesses is those things that I saw at that assembly. To the point where I even expressed my doubts in the car group going back home from the assembly. And I know that my friends in the car were probably thinking twice about, what is this guy talking about, you know? So now, at that assembly, the first demonstration that they had was, they had a young man up there, and it is a kid in his late teens. He had just finished high school, and he was in a dilemma because he had gotten a full ride scholarship to MIT, and he didn't know what to do. He didn't know whether to take it. And so he went and he spoke to his parents, and they didn't know what to do. So they contacted the elders, and the elders came over to his house. And just that right there, just that much says so much. You know, just that part says so much about this organization where, you know, these parents aren't even confident enough in their own abilities to parent their child that they have to get advice from these elders on what to do. It's almost like they have to go to these elders for like every little thing, you know, just trying to figure out how to manage their lives. You know, they're not savvy enough as parents to decide as a family, you know, whether or not their child should go ahead and accept this full ride scholarship to MIT worth thousands upon thousands of dollars, you know, which could possibly set him up for the rest of his life. Right? They're not savvy enough as parents to make that decision for themselves. They have to call these elders who probably do menial jobs themselves and only have these positions of power because it was given to them by these individuals who don't know any better, right? So they call these elders over to their homes for advice. And what those elders said to that kid, it made me so angry. I almost get emotional just thinking about it. You know, they discouraged him from taking that full ride scholarship, and why? They said the same thing that they always said. they say that you should not take, they say it without saying it. They don't come right out and just say that, no, you should not take this full ride scholarship to MIT. No, you should not get involved in higher education, right? They don't ever come out and say it. But again, they say it without saying it. They say things like, when you go to university, you might get exposed to worldly philosophies, right? That's the thing that they've been saying for decades. If you look at some of the oldest publications in this organization, they talk about these worldly philosophies that you might become exposed to at university. And the other thing that they mention is they talk about that there's fornication that happens on the college campus, and you don't want to expose yourself to the temptation to get involved in fornication, right? And I can sit here and just talk and do a whole video about how absurd that reasoning is, as far as trying to discourage a person, actual reasons why a person, would actually turn down a full ride scholarship to university, right? Because you might become exposed to worldly philosophies. Well, what does that even mean, worldly philosophies? I don't even know what that means. You learn a lot of things when you go to university, right? You learn about chemistry. You learn about biology. You learn about mathematics. Worldly philosophies, right? It just ask an elder what that means one day, and see what they say to you. And then they talk about fornication. You might be tempted to get involved with fornication. That's something that could happen anywhere. You can go to a mall and be tempted, to get involved with fornication, right? As if that's not a temptation in high school, And so it's just awful. So they sat there and they discouraged the young man from accepting that full ride scholarship to MIT, and I was absolutely disgusted. I actually remember being in the car group on the way back home from the assembly, and I asked my friend, I said, if you got a full ride scholarship to MIT, would you turn it down? And this guy was actually a tech guy. He said, no, no way, But this is how this organization operates, right? So that was the first experience that caused me to start having these doubts. And the next experience that they showed just drove it home, Now, mind you, this is 2008 that I'm hearing these things, right before the Great Recession, right? So they put a guy up on that stage, and this wasn't a demonstration. This was actually an experience. So this was actually something that really did happen, right? With those, with the demonstrations, you don't know if it's actually based on something that happened or if it's just the organization, giving you this direction, But the second experience, this guy got up there on that stage, and apparently he had been offered a job, a position somewhere that would have allowed him to make a lot of money. And you've heard this dozens of times. You've heard this time and time and time again. He got offered a position to where he could make a lot of money, but it would have caused him to have to miss meetings and to not be able to go out and service as much, And so this man stood up there in front of 900 people of all ages, impressionable young people in there, going to these assemblies for direction. And he said, proudly, that he turned down that job. And the job that he took a job cleaning parking lots, because this would have allowed him to pursue his spiritual goals, right? When I heard that, I just couldn't, I was aghast when I heard that, and the expression that I keep thinking, the expression I keep coming back to is the direction is so awful that it almost seems like psychological abuse, that you would stand up there in front of this large group of people who come to these assemblies for direction, and you would use these types of expressions to discourage these young people and these witnesses in general from pursuing higher education, for setting themselves up so that they could have a future and take care of themselves, right? And have some financial success and some financial stability. And you make an example out of a person who turned down a high-paying job so that he could clean parking lots, because that allowed him to pursue his spiritual goals. It's just absolutely disgusting, right? Now, mind you, the next year, the Great Recession happened. Now, I just wonder what this person's financial outlook was, how he enjoyed cleaning those parking lots, if that job stuck around once that recession really got underway. A lot of people lost everything during that recession. I have family members who lost everything and have spent, all of these years since putting their lives back together. And here you have this man standing up there delivering that example, right? And again, this is just how the Jehovah's Witnesses, this is nothing new. You've heard this time and time and time again, going back decades, right? I remember being at a convention. I think this was after I had been disfellowshipped, but I was still trying to come back, right? And I sat there in that convention and I listened to a guy up there giving a demonstration. I have a hard time believing this is based on any actual fact. I think that this was a demonstration put together by the governing body, because no idiot would actually do this. This man in this demonstration said that he quit his job because he would have had, because of the job that he was in, he would have had to miss the convention. So he gave up that job. And here was a man who had a family, right? And that was a demonstration. This person had a job and he gave it up. He had a family that had goals, that he had responsibilities. He had mortgage that he had to pay. He had car notes just like everybody. He had electricity that he had to keep on. And he gave up his job because he would have had to miss the convention. Never mind the fact that, at least in Tacoma, there's at least 3 conventions that go on, that happen during convention season, and this person could have easily made one of the other conventions, right? So he would have possibly had to miss the convention with his family, but he could have easily made it up on any of the other 2 conventions, right? But instead, he chose to quit his job. It's ghastly. It's shocking, But this is what the propaganda that this organization, this is how they operate. They want their members to be destitute. They want their members to be poor, right? So we talked about the recession that happened in 2008, but here we are. We're a year into this COVID lockdown, and I just think about how many people have lost their jobs. How many people are struggling, because their jobs disappeared during the COVID lockdown. And you think about these Jehovah's Witnesses, they've been discouraged for their entire lives from pursuing jobs that, more professional type jobs, more high paying type jobs, right? The types of jobs that actually stuck around during this COVID lockdown. The jobs that stuck around during the lockdown are jobs that you can do from home, right? More professional type jobs where you can do remotely, jobs where you can sit in front of a computer and use your brain to make your living, right? But these are not the types of jobs that Jehovah's Witnesses are encouraged to pursue. Jehovah's Witnesses are encouraged to pursue menial jobs, right? Jobs that don't require any sort of higher education, right? Any sort of advanced training. How many Jehovah's Witnesses have you known who wash windows? How many Jehovah's Witnesses have you known who operate floor maintenance jobs, right? Who strip floors for a living, Now, if you're somebody who owns a floor waxing or floor stripping business, that's one thing, But how many Jehovah's Witnesses have you known where that's what they did for a living? They stripped floors for a living. How many Jehovah's Witnesses have you known who do lawn care businesses, right? These types of jobs. And you wonder, you know, the position that these Jehovah's Witnesses are in now, right? Because the Jehovah's Witnesses, this organization, has always from going back as far as you could go back, discouraged its members from pursuing more high-paying type jobs, more professional type jobs, right? Where they can actually earn a living and make some money, right? And this is not to say that there are no Jehovah's Witnesses out there who, have achieved success and, have jobs where they can take care of their families, But I believe that the ones who actually have achieved success, they're the exception, at least in my area. These ones, they're the exception, by and large, or perhaps they're trust fund kids who their parents attained wealth maybe before they became Jehovah's Witnesses and then became witnesses later in life and passed that wealth on to their children, right? That's a thing, So it's shocking and it's just terrible, right? So, I'm going to give you guys another example as far as these spiritual goals that these Jehovah's Witnesses set up for themselves, that they pursue. We've talked about the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses are, in no uncertain terms, discouraged from higher education and more higher profile type jobs. But I'm going to give you guys a personal example of something that happened to me at one of these Kingdom Halls. Now, this happened in around 2012 or 2013 when I was still I was disfellowshipped at the time, but I was trying to get back, So I went to this, it was my home congregation, and this was around the time when they first released the latest version of the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, the gray one. So I went to the Kingdom Hall and I wanted a Bible, right? And so I went back to the back counter, and there was a guy back there, the person who was in charge of handing out the literature, and you could just tell that this person felt like he was somebody. He felt like he had some status because he had the assignment of standing behind that counter in that little nothing neighborhood in that Kingdom Hall, behind that counter, and he had the job. He had achieved one of his spiritual goals, working behind that literature counter and handing out watchtowers and awakes and Bibles, right? And just the haughtiness that this person demonstrated when I went back there trying to get a Bible, it was shocking to me. As much as a person could figuratively and almost literally hold up their nose, right, because of this position of power that they had over me, someone who actually wanted a Bible, it blew me away, right? So I went back there to try to get a Bible, and there was actually an elder who was standing next to me, and I asked for a Bible, and this guy, he says to me, "Who are you studying with?" Right? Because he didn't recognize me. So he thought that I was somebody who was just a Bible study. And I said, "Well, I'm disfellowshipped." And he didn't even respond. What he did was he just looked over at the elder that was standing next to me, right, for confirmation that he could actually give me this Bible, right? Because at the time, I believe that they had a limited supply of Bibles and they couldn't just give them out. Apparently, they couldn't just give them out to anyone. You had to either be a baptized publisher, or apparently if you were a Bible study, you qualified to get a Bible. But this person, I didn't, it's like I didn't rate high enough for him to even be polite to me, and threatening to turn me down for this Bible. He just looked over at the elder for confirmation, and he never did say anything to me. I believe the elder gave him the go ahead, and the guy handed me a Bible. And I'm telling you, this was some time ago. That hurt my feelings. It really hurt my feelings, right? And the thing of it is this person had achieved a spiritual goal, right? And he felt like he was somebody. It was obvious that he felt like he was somebody, but because he was standing behind that counter, and he had the assignment of handing out those Bibles, you know. And now I want to tell you guys that I'm not the type of person to make fun of people or to talk negatively about a person's appearance or just what they got going on, right? Because you look at me, I ain't shit, right? But this person, I'm going to just describe the type of person that the Jehovah's Witnesses organization attracts. Maybe you can take something away from this. And again, I don't mean to say anything negative about this person, but I'm just going to describe this person to you. And to be sure, if the person wasn't a freaking jerk, then it's like anything negative that you would say about the person's bearing, those things don't matter if you're actually a nice person, right? But they come into such sharp relief, you know, when this is the way that you present, and you're also a friggin' jerk, right? This is the type of person, he kind of just, his clothes don't fit him right, you know, he feels like, it seems like he's too big for his clothes. He breathes audibly, you know, he has a weird sounding voice. You know, he's not the type of person that you'd want to be standing next to at a door, and things that come out of his mouth, they're just kind of weird. You know, when he goes up to the platform to do these talks, he sounds odd, you know, and he just makes you uncomfortable listening to the person, you know. And again, he's standing behind this counter because he's achieved this spiritual goal of handing out these Bibles, right? This is the type of person that the Jehovah's Witnesses organization attracts, right? Not that all Jehovah's Witnesses are freaking jerks, but this guy was, and it really hurt my feelings, you know? Now you take that dynamic, the type of person that I just described, or, you know, you even take someone who's an elder. A lot of these elders, they're generally nice guys, you know? But you look at what they've achieved. Probably they do jobs where they come home friggin' exhausted because they're menial type jobs, or they're exhausted during the day because they've had to work graveyards chipping floors, right? You know, and they come home and they prepare these talks where they present this propaganda to these people who are not smart enough to realize that it's propaganda, right? Not smart enough to realize that everything that they hear every week when they go to those kingdom halls is BS, right? But that's their life. And they're proud of the fact that their every waking hour, you know, they're preparing a talk, right? Getting something ready for this organization because they've given their entire existence to this organization. There's a whole entire world out there, you know. I want you guys to know this. There's a whole entire world of culture, you know, a place to travel, people to talk to, restaurants to go to, fun to have, things to see, you know. But these Jehovah's Witnesses set up these spiritual goals like I just described, you know, of standing behind a counter at a kingdom hall, handing out literature, or going up and standing in front of a bunch of people presenting this propaganda, the same propaganda that they've been presenting for decades, right? And it'd be one thing if it was true, but it's nothing but a bunch of false prophecies. You know, they're sitting up there talking about overlapping generations. You know, they're sitting up there talking about the blood issue that has changed time and time and time and time again over the decades. You know, they're sitting up there explaining to people why they should pursue higher education, you know, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. This is the life that, these are the spiritual goals that these Jehovah's Witnesses are obsessed with attaining. Now, I want to contrast that with the kid who's in high school and he says, you know what? I want to get straight A's. And you know what else? I'm going to do these activities, right? In school, whether it's sports or whether it's clubs, right? Because I want to avail myself to scholarships that might allow me to go to school for free, to go to university for free, or paying as little as I possibly can, right? And I'm going to take that full ride scholarship to MIT, you know, and I'm gonna get a high paying job. That's something that's fulfilling to me, something that's mentally and emotionally fulfilling to me, that I can take more from it than just a meager paycheck, right? That I can take personal satisfaction from this work that I do, you know. I'm gonna go to MIT. Maybe I'll become a financial advisor, you know. Maybe I'll become a physician. Maybe I'll become a lawyer. Maybe I'll become a someone who does coding for a living. Maybe I'll do internet security, you know. Who knows? So I'm going to take that higher paying job, you know, and I'm going to find a nice person to marry, you know. And while I'm courting this person, I'm going to have interesting things to talk about, right? I'm going to have things other than the Jehovah's Witnesses organization and religious propaganda to speak about. I'm going to speak to this person about what I do for a living, you know, and the places I've gone and the things that I've seen, you know, the books that I've read, you know, the poetry that I've read, you know, and so I'm going to get married. Maybe I'm going to have children. Maybe I won't have children, but I'm going to travel the world, you know, because I make enough money to travel the world and do things and see things. See, this is, if I have any influence, and influence is probably not the right word, but if there's anything that I could say to you guys, you know, contrast those two goals, you know. Maybe you're somebody who's studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I want you to know that the Jehovah's Witnesses want you to be destitute. I've just described it. I'm not lying to you guys. They want you to be poor, you know. Think about these Jehovah's Witnesses that are out serving where the need is greater right now, or were, you know, right at the time when the COVID lockdown started. Think about the jobs that those people are probably doing when serving in, I don't know, Mexico, or what's the big one? Ecuador. You know, they wanted to go serve where the need is greater. So they took menial jobs in foreign countries so that they could serve Jehovah where the need is greater, right? What happened when the COVID lockdown started, where people aren't even going outside? You know, what happened to the menial jobs that they were doing in these foreign countries, right? Do these individuals even have enough money to buy a plane ticket to come back home when lockdown started? And if they were able to get home, were there any jobs available for them when they did come home, right? Probably not. You know, any jobs that they qualified for, you know, when they came back home. Contrast the two goals, you know, achieving financial success, you know, achieving your goals, as opposed to achieving these spiritual goals that they talk about in the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. So I wanted this video to also just present that information to you guys, but also as a record for myself and anybody who's listening to me about the goals that I've been able to achieve, you know, up to this point, and some of the goals that I have moving forward. And I'm gonna kind of build on this video with future videos telling you guys how I'm doing. So I live in an apartment right now and paying $1,300 a month, and it's time for me to buy a condo. Now, this past February, I achieved a goal that I had been trying to do for about 6 months, where I paid off one of my credit cards, you know, through lots of hard work, lots of overtime, things that would have been certainly discouraged were I still a Jehovah's Witness. But I did the overtime, I put in the work, I saved up $6,000, and I paid off that one credit card this past February. That was 50% of my credit card debt. And I immediately started working on knocking out this second one. I've got the second one down to about $5,300. After my paycheck in a few weeks, it's going to be down to about $4,700. And if I play my cards right, if everything goes to plan, I should have that second credit card paid off by December. And at that point, my only debt will be my car, which will be paid off by June of probably 2022, and my student loans, right? That'll be my only debt after December. I looked at my credit score, and it's almost to 800. I think by the time I get that second credit card paid off, I should be over the top. I should be at 800 or darn close to it. And so what I plan to do is after my lease is up in October, most of that second credit card will be paid off, and my credit utilization will be down to about, at that point, about 7%. And so that's going to be awesome. And it might even be lower than that, because I'm only looking at, moving into a condo in October, because that's when my lease will be up. So that card won't be completely paid off yet, but it'll be very, very, very close, right? Point being, I'll almost be at 0% credit utilization. So that will help me, being at that point will help me to get the best interest rate on a condo. And that'll be a milestone for me. Like I said before, I'm going to refer back to this video and I'm going to build on this video and let you guys know how I'm doing, just so that I can reflect back on it, in the future. And also, I don't know if it maybe provides some encouragement to anybody else who's trying to, attain to the goal of homeownership. But so these are the financial goals that I'm working towards right now. And I want to emphasize to you guys that it has absolutely nothing to do with anything having to do with the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. Nothing. I visited Europe for the first time in September of 2019. I went to London and I went to Amsterdam, and I had an amazing time. I was all set to go back in April of 2020, and I was going to stay for 5 weeks. But I wasn't able to do that because of COVID. But my dream is to be able to get into this condo, flip it for profit in about 3 years or so, and pay off my student loan. And then I'll be 100% debt free. And I'll be able to basically go to Europe anytime I want to. Go to Europe. This last trip, my plan was I was actually booked and ticketed to go to London, Paris, and Amsterdam. And I've been trying to get back ever since. But that's my goal. These are the personal financial goals that I have set up for myself. And I want to emphasize again that it has nothing to do with any religious organization, right? So that's where I want to encourage you guys, if you're a person who's, given the option to pursue higher education so that you can set yourself up for a comfortable life, a life where you don't have to do a menial job and you don't necessarily have to worry, because some sort of a disaster hits, right? I want you guys to be set up, I want you guys to see what it's like to achieve financial goals, achieve financial success. That's what I emphasize to you guys, especially if you're a young person, who hasn't used any credit yet, who hasn't gone into debt yet. Just think about what I've told you. Everything that I've told you about what the Jehovah's Witnesses want for you is true. And I urge you, do not listen to them when they tell you not to pursue higher education. Those people want you to be destitute. They want you to be poor. They want you to give everything that you have to give to that organization, to trying to convert people, to giving these talks, where you're spreading this propaganda that has been proven false time and time and time again. Don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it. There's a whole world out there, and it's just waiting for you to go experience it. I'm going to go ahead and end this video now. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Take it easy, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.